Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Ada for telling my brother's girlfriend that it was weird for her to keep an urn of her late husband's ashes in the house. Okay, that's exactly what happened to me last night as my family and I, male 23, were making our first visit to the house of my brother's, male 30, girlfriend, female 30. We were all sat at the dinner table when I remembered my brother's widowed girlfriend telling me that she keeps an urn with her late husband's ashes in the house where they both lived. When the talk wandered off subject, I turned to my brother and gently inquired as to whether he would be comfortable with his girlfriend's late husband's urn being in the house. He said yes. I thought the response was yes, since he locked his stare on me for a long time. However, I wondered whether he couldn't tell his partner about it for fear of her misinterpreting it. Consequently, I'd brought it up with her and pointed out that putting her late husband's urn in the house was unusual. She agreed. She looked at me as though she had been caught aback by what I had said. She replied that she did not believe this was the case, that the urn was not on display, and that this was her late husband's property, and thus, here was where the urn belonged. It was his girlfriend who got angry and quiet when I told her that I thought it was unusual, especially considering she had just had my brother move in with her and I assumed he must be uncomfortable with the notion. "It's none of your goddamn concern, Elijah, so shut up," my brother said angrily. "I mean, personally, I wouldn't be comfortable with my woman keeping an urn of her ex-ash's husband's in close proximity. At the very least, it would make me feel uncomfortable. And at the very worst, it would make me feel creeped out," I said. He subsequently received a response from his girlfriend, who said that I had no business dating a widow, to which I responded with a shrug. She excused herself to the kitchen and stayed there when my brother went off on me, calling me an annoying for making supper unpleasant for him and upsetting his fiancée. I tried to explain that I was only expressing my point of view, but he grew even more upset with me. We drove away, and my parents informed me that my brother's girlfriend was being oversensitive. I took things too far and hurt my brother, which most likely resulted in a fight between them, and I should apologize, but I'm not sure how to do so effectively. Edit, guys, please. One thing you should know is that I had no intention of causing you any harm. I don't dislike my brother's girlfriend. In fact, we get along very well, but I simply wanted to clarify that I had no malevolent intent in this situation. I'm not the sort of man who goes out of his way to be spiteful, yet I feel a little bad about how the scenario turned out. Edit 2, it was my parents, not me, who stated she was too sensitive. Edit 3, just so you know, I overheard my brother complaining about the urn when he first moved here. Story 2. Ada for moving my kids 1.5 hours away from my parents. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I went through a traumatic divorce with 2 young children 5 years ago, when I was 33 years old. As things stand now, father isn't involved and isn't likely to be involved for a lengthy period of time. In order to get back on my feet, I temporarily moved in with my parents. At the time, my parents, children, and I were all relocating across the country. We found a place to stay and split the cost of everything equally once we got there. No effort has been made by my parents to extend their horizons now that they are retired. I have a graduate degree, good friends, and a fulfilling professional life. More than a year has passed since I began seeing someone, after having been alone for 3 years and concentrating on my children. He 35 has a good career and is wonderful with my children, and we are considering getting married. My spouse, children, and I just relocated to a new home and am really pleased with our decision. My parents and I used to have issues with setting boundaries. My father gave me permission to be a parent, but my mother was quite critical. I feel myself to be a committed parent, and other friends and family members have expressed their appreciation for my efforts. Friends and family have expressed concern about my mother's frequent transgressions of boundaries. She may be overbearing and used to receiving our submission. An example would be labeling me crazy and becoming enraged because I took the kids on a 5-hour road trip to see family in another state. They had a fantastic time. After much consideration, my boyfriend and I have been offered the choice to relocate to a smaller town 1.5 hours away. My business partner is a successful entrepreneur in a niche industry that is geographically confined, and he has turned down possibilities to relocate abroad in favor of seeking a position closer to where we now live so that my children may continue to be close to their extended families. Taking this move is not entirely discretionary if he wants to maintain his position. My work is flexible and adjustable. In addition to having good schools, the neighborhood is a safer and more enjoyable place to live. Despite the fact that they would be seeing their grandparents fewer days each week, the children are overjoyed and have no worries about it. My parents would alternate between dropping off and picking up the kids before and after school and on weekends. My family is dissatisfied with me since I informed them about the situation. I assured them that we'd be back in town almost every weekend and that they were welcome to visit anytime they wanted. I kept my word. According to them, if they had known we were an hour and a half away, they would not have migrated here. They were devastated and felt used and exploited. If I had known that I would be forced to live inside a certain radius for the rest of my life, I would not have accepted their aid. I feel like I owe them something for their assistance when I was going through one of the most difficult periods in my life. I adore my parents and will be eternally grateful for everything they have done to help me. Right now, everything revolves around the children. They don't have any other interests, friends, or occupations, so I realize how terrible it must be for them. I think that this is the best option for us, our children, our careers, and our mental well-being at this time. A future with my partner is something I hope for. He has fought hard for us to be close, and he is committed to me and to children who are not biologically his. In terms of migrating, what is AITA? Update. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for your assistance in helping me retain my composure during this trauma. I have been so engrossed in it that the advice of complete strangers was just what I needed. Short of saying that we did not move 1.5 hours away, we relocated 1,500 miles away, to make a long story short. As a result of the pandemic that struck both of our places of employment, the original move from the first job was never accomplished. In 2020, when it came time to make decisions after our world had been turned upside down, I didn't have the capacity to take into consideration anyone's preferences save my own, my partner's, and the preferences of my children. Attempting to placate others by making the initial move didn't work, and the control/disrespect issue deteriorated as a result. I started to think critically about the situation, realizing how damaging it was that my life as an adult was an open forum for the whole family. While I had no intention of hurting them, I could see the writing on the wall if I continued to accept the current situation as it was. During my confinement, I had a stunning realization that changed everything. I didn't want to grow old and have to look back on a life that I couldn't remember anything about. So many decisions had been taken for me without my knowledge. People-pleasing and letting other people's interests to divert my attention away from what is best for myself are two things I struggle with. I didn't want to spend another minute of my time negotiating. We ended up moving to a beautiful location and acquiring jobs that provided far greater security. We were able to acquire the house of our dreams. The youngsters are doing really well. I had given up on attempting to please everyone else. I received a great deal of negative feedback, but I remained firm in my convictions. Reduce the amount of time you spend in touch with others. Begin by chatting with a professional counselor. I had no idea how much things were troubling me until today, and I'm feeling considerably better as a result. Again, I'm not sure why I felt the urge to put pen to paper. I believe it is partly out of gratitude for Reddit validating my feelings and given me the strength to make a change in the way things were going at the time. Another part of me hopes that anybody who reads this and finds themselves in a similar situation will have the fortitude to make a change. If you are an adult making choices for your family that are healthy and safe, please do not let the intentions of others influence your decisions. It is not a good idea to let implicit social covenants to force you into circumstances that make you feel uncomfortable with yourself.